Hello and welcome to the EIC Clearly podcast. EIC Clearly? See what I did there? This is the podcast that brings you in-depth discussions with energy, policy and thought leaders on the most critical issues, trends and innovations shaping the global energy supply chain.
Hello everybody, it's Stuart Broadley here from the EIC and welcome to another EIC Clearly podcast. It's been almost exactly a year since I did an EIC Clearly podcast with Lorenzo Freuch, who heads up the FPSO program with Petrobras, which was hugely popular with our listeners. So I'm so excited and lucky to be in Rio de Janeiro once again in the Petrobras offices to do this new EIC Clearly podcast with Fabricio Benites Soares. Fabricio, lovely to see you. How are you?
Hi, Stuart. I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to showcase Petrobras on the EIC podcast, which is a very large, rich podcast.
It is, yeah. And it's large because people like you agree to do this. So shall I do a little bit of introduction on what you do? So you're General Manager, Refining, Gas and Energy Engineering with Petrobras. You're responsible for defining, designing and delivering all engineering activities for large-scale onshore industrial projects, from early concept selection through full project delivery, ensuring technical robustness and vendor qualification. The role also contributes to procurement strategy decisions through participation in corporate committees. The area leads engineering projects across downstream and midstream segments, covering refineries, gas processing units, power generation and storage, pipelines, terminals. How do you find the time? Also, renewables, decarbonization, fertilizers, and petrochemicals. It's a huge role. So thank you so much for taking an hour out of your day to speak with me today, Fabricio. Thank you. So let's start, though, with a little bit on your background. You've been now nearly 21 years with Petrobras. And many people I speak to in Petrobras have these long careers. It seems like a brilliant place to work, real builder of careers. And when you look back, what's been the key steps to your journey to get this important job now?
Well, before I got into Petrobras, I started my career as a mechanical engineer, mechanical designer for industrial facilities. It was in the automotive segment 23 years ago. But then I joined Petrobras 21 years ago. And since then, I have worked in the engineering development and implementation of large capital projects, 15 of these years in upstream projects and mainly FPSOs projects, and 5 years in downstream. In the upstream, I worked on the FPSO projects for Roncador Field, Parque das Baleias Field, Libra, and Búzios fields. Most of these were OTC award winners, which are like the Oscar for the offshore oil and gas industry.
OTC, the Houston oil show, you mean?
Yes.
Of course, yeah.
And I had the opportunity to lead the engineering team that developed the largest capacity FPSOs currently under construction, the ones that Lorenzo in the previous interview talked a little bit about, as well as the all-electric FPSOs, P84 and 85, which included in its designs many front-end greenhouse gases reduction technologies. In the downstream, I had the opportunity to manage the development of the greenfield gas treatment plant. That was the first one to process the pre-salt gas. And in recent years, Petrobras increased investment on downstream, midstream, and renewables, decarbonization, and fertilizers. And in this scenario, I came to my current role. So I'm, for 3 years now, leading the engineering team responsible for the refining, gas, and energy engineering.
Yeah, and as I went through, it's very widespread set of responsibilities you have and technologies you have. But I guess through your career, you have been involved in many of these technologies already. When you look back, what would you say is the 2 or 3 things you did that you're most proud of, that you think had the biggest impact for your career?
Well, I think that you need to manage your career the way you do for your area, a project or a portfolio. You need to assume the protagonism of your own development. So, for example, one thing that I passionate is engineering design. So having this as a clear path for the future, it's easier so you can develop your skills that are in this direction. So then you go not very straight direct to that, but you can develop skills on the technical issues as well as in management, project management, for example. I had the opportunity to put me into conditions and scenarios that were very demanding for example, contractual management of contracts that have their issues, have not a lean flow, let's say like this. In Petrobras, the projects are very large capital projects, so you have a lot of opportunities to manage and to participate in this kind of projects. So when we have new people on the team, let's say like engineers, you have the opportunity to put that engineer responsible for a package that sometimes it's so large, even in CapEx, that is very representative. And it's a good opportunity to learn skills on the technical issues as well as contract management. So how you contract one company, international contracts that are not developed, equipment that are not developed in a single location, but throughout many countries, many times. And you have to deal with different ways of doing things, from different suppliers, ways to do things, and to communicate and know how they fabricate, how they plan, how they manage. It's also an opportunity to interact with other oil companies as well. We work in these partnerships with other oil companies. So that's an opportunity as well as to understand and identify different ways to do same things. And you can collect the best practice in many areas to increase your capabilities.
Let's talk about the role you have now. So General Manager, Refining, Gas and Energy Engineering. So it's a pure engineering role, working with many stakeholders. What's a normal day like for you?
We have days in which we have projects getting into the portfolio. So we have early discussions on how to provide an engineering solution for that business opportunity. So that's every week we have discussions on that with different business areas. So that's very routine. On the same time, on the same day, you have issues throughout projects that are already under construction, and you have things that not go as planned, and you have to find a solution that still adds value and trying to solve that issue in many technical areas. As well, we participate during biddings. So we have the close contact with the market through procurement teams in an integrated form, that you have to interact with clarifications, maybe some testing of the design that was provided. So all of this and the startup of the units as well. So all this happens in teams involved on a single day or in a week. We're having all phases of different projects, but going on different stages. But you have the responsibility to solve the actual issues as well as to think how can you avoid for the next project that is coming on that day. So you do not have that same issue again, solving it in specifications, into procedures, into the way we contract equipment or construction companies.
A good day then is you don't get much involvement later because everything goes smoothly. But the reality, of course, is these are some of the most complex facilities and infrastructure projects in the world. So, of course, there's a huge amount of involvement all the way through. So if I put it another way, there's no escape, is there? From that project, you're then married to it all the way through. I guess even beyond startup into operation and maintenance as well. Always going back to the original design, learning, about what can we do next time to make sure we don't have that cost or that delay or that technical problem that we hadn't realized was going to happen or something's changed. So it's a constant learning process. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. It's not by events or by workshops-driven lessons learned that we also do, but it's a throughout process that we have the same team of engineers that is solving the issue on one project, is responsible to review the specifications, to review the procedures, to review how we qualify vendors, so we can make this feedback loop as a constant thing.
Wow. So you also, in a number of your previous roles, have been responsible for procurement, but now you're partnered with procurement. They then take your specifications and they then place purchase orders based upon those. But you also interface upstream with the R&D department as well to feed back to them what you see in reality works and does not work, and also they're feeding to you next generation ideas. It's a fascinating job. You must really be able to handle a lot of variety and complexity, and I guess your whole team, they're okay with that, right?
Yeah, sure. They like that, like this proximity with the operations and maintenance team, for example, the assets that we have already put into operation. So how they are working after 5 years, 10 years, what kind of issues that we are having throughout this phase. And then we can learn from that and be constantly developing new engineering solutions, as well as to interact with the research and development team, so we can develop new solutions for materials, for configurations, or to prospect what we have already as commercially available in some cases. So that's a constant cycle that we look to the operations and maintenance.
Let's just talk a bit about Petrobras and its strategy now then. That you're a critical part of enabling that strategy. So perhaps, can you sort of summarize for us the key aspects to the Petrobras 5-year strategy that it's working on at the moment?
We have grouped this kind of projects maybe in some groups to increase capacity. We have the improvements in quality of products, for example, like the diesel, ultra low sulfur diesel. We have as well capacity increase, improvements in the quality of products. We have new products as well. We have new energies, not only molecules, but also electrons, as well as decarbonize the products and the process itself. So that's some kinds of projects that we'll deal with. And integration with refining, for example, with fertilizers and also petrochemicals. So that's how we can group these kind of projects that we have.
So Petrobras is in a growth phase and an investment phase.
Yes, we have, for example, we produce oil in terms of 3 million barrels per day, that we refine around 1.8 million barrels per day. So we have opportunity to increase the refining capacity. Petrobras has for the downstream and the midstream, as well as new energies, 29 billion capex investment for the next 4 years. So this is some focus that Petrobras has given in the latest years into the downstream and midstream segments. Yeah.
The 29 billion, is that all approved?
As a part of that is already approved. So we have already contracts under development or biddings under development. And a portion of that is still under evaluation when we have been studying or designing and going through the front-end loading stages gate for each.
How do you measure your team and how does Petrobras measure you?
We aim for net positive value of this project. So for refining, for example, the majority of the projects are cost-driven. So we have to find solutions that are cost-driven. But still we have to pursue international metrics related to the lead time of this project life cycle. So in fact, you have to achieve cost-driven projects, but looking to which is the time that this is still a good time to implement this project. That's the goal that we have to pursue. How can we achieve better net positive value, either by reducing capex or reducing opex or increasing operational efficiency or reducing the lead time to implement that project? And there are specific kinds of projects, for example, for the biorefining projects, that we have a window of time in which the regulations will start. So we have to access that market in a period of time. So for example, Corsia, by 2027, we will apply and we must be ready for that. Depending on the kind of project, you have different metrics to pursue.
Explain to me again. So net positive value is some kind of a return on investment of the project. Who measures that? Is that within your team as well to then measure that NPV?
For the early stages, it's the business areas that calculate the net positive value of each project.
Yeah.
So we interact with the business areas from the early stages, from FEL 1 stage, when it's not a project yet, but it's a business opportunity.
Yeah.
Make some studies, some assessment that will add value to that project. And it can be simplifying the design, simplifying the operation requirements for that to reduce capex, reduce opex. How can we increase the productivity of that plant? So how can we increase the operational efficiency or reliability of that unit? For example, some projects we assess to electrify instead of using steam. So let's electrify some motors, some compressors to bring more reliability for some case. So to find these kind of technical engineering solutions that will add to the business opportunity, it adds value. You put money and you extract more value from that design.
So a lot of these ideas for improvement, they come from the supply chain? Or how do you fish in all of the sea of opportunities out there? How do you find the best ones that provide this opportunity for you each time?
For sure, we have interactions with the market to prospect the solutions on that. Sometimes comes from the operational team that have some problems, some issue with the plant that is reducing, for example, reliability, operational efficiency. And we have to find a technical engineering solution that will solve that in some way. So it can come from the operations, can come from supply chain. You have interaction with different kinds of suppliers that have equipment that may, some are standardized, but some not. So we can interact to identify these kind of solutions that are available. And sometimes they are not available yet. And you have to interact with different kinds of companies through the research and development team. So you can develop that technology, that solution, and make it not only its technology maturity level okay, but as well as the commercial maturity level as well as okay. So you can implement in the next investment.
This is part of this learning cycle again. So this learning cycle process is a business process that basically you own. Is that right?
This comes from the business areas and then goes throughout the project management team, which is a different department, and then deliver back again to the business area.
I can only imagine the variety of questions you're being asked all the time and the things you're having to solve every day. You must love challenges and change.
Yes, yes, sure. Even my team, I really love it.
If you're enjoying this podcast and think you have an inspiring story to tell, contact me, Stuart Broadley, directly, as I would love to do a C-level podcast with you too. EIC is proud to be the UK's largest membership energy trade association and the 5th largest in the world. We are unique around the world for 3 reasons. We are truly energy agnostic, believing all energy technologies are vital to delivering energy security, affordability and a just transition. We are the only energy trade association anywhere in the world that offers a truly in-house one-stop shop for market intelligence, networks and events to help our members export, diversify and grow. And we are proud to be the voice of the energy supply chain, advocating for the 5 golden rules of a healthy energy supply chain. More details on EIC membership, the 5 golden rules, details about doing a future podcast with me, and how to contact us about anything else are in the description for this podcast.
So let's talk about some of the key projects. Should we start with refineries?
Right.
So what are the main projects you're working on at the moment?
Well, in this, we have ongoing now traditional industrial projects like refineries revamps and integration. I can mention the Northeast Refinery, which is the acronym we call RENEST, which we have there at the second train of production, which will increase the capacity of RENEST in 130,000 barrels a day. It converts its capacity 70% to ultra-low sulfur diesel, which we call here S10. The total capex of this project is around $2 billion. And for this project, we have all the EPC packages already contracted and under execution. The startup will be 2029, and the atmospheric distillation unit will have an early startup by next year. So that's one of the main projects that we have. We have another one in the refining, which is the Boaventura Energy Complex. It will add 76,000 barrels per day of ultra-low sulfur diesel and 20,000 barrels per day of jet fuel A1, and also 12,000 barrels per day of low sulfur lubricant base oils. And for the Boaventura, we have 15 construction packages, 13 of them already contracted and on execution, and 2 under bid right now. And the total capex is around more than $3 billion. It will start up on 2029. And there is an interesting information for the Boaventura project is that all the water for industrial processing will come from domestic sewage. So all the water required for the cooling systems, for example, will come for this wastewater, which is the largest water reuse project in an industrial area in Brazil. That will generate savings that are equivalent to a city of 600,000 people in Rio. Another project that is important to mention is the fertilizer production plant, WFN3, that will produce 3,600 tons per day of urea, plus 225 tons per day of ammonia, In this project, we have 11 packages that 4 of these 11 are already contracted and the remaining under final negotiation. The total capex is around $1 billion and it will start up as well in 2029. I can add some energy transition projects as well. We have our first dedicated HEFA plant. It's in the refinery RPBC. It's the acronym in Portuguese, RPBC. It's in southeast Brazil. So this project takes no fossil oil as feedstock. So the final product, which is sustainable aviation fuel, a renewable diesel, will have the exact main properties of the fossil one. So they will be drop-in fuels. This plant will produce 15,000 barrels per day of SBC, which is the synthetic blend component that you blend with the fossil aviation fuel to have the sustainable aviation fuel. And you can produce up to 100% of SAF or 100% of renewable diesel. So you can commute into anything in between these modes of operation. And the current feedstock is 100% to 70% soybean oil and up to 30% of beef tallow. So potentially we'll study other feedstocks as well as technical corn oil.
And the renewable power for that is coming from what?
It will use either from the power grid or from the power generation of the refinery itself. So we do not have to add thermal power generation to that.
Yeah, because the grid is largely renewable already, of course.
Yeah,
because
yes.
that's one of the things that Brazil is famous for. But I'm sure a lot of people keep forgetting it, is how renewable Brazil's power base already is.
Yeah, so if you import from the power grid, you're already having
80% renewable minimum already.
In this project, we are currently under bid. So there are 6 bid packages. And we have as well other projects to improve energy efficiency and reduce greenhouse gases emissions, which is the REFTOP program, which basically includes projects to electrify large rotating equipment in several refineries. Into the energy transition projects, we have as well as CCS, carbon capture and storage pilot projects in Rio de Janeiro. Petrobras already has a large CCUS project, which is offshore for the platforms for pre-salt fields, which has accumulated more than 80 million tons of CO2 since 2015. But this will be the first one onshore, which is a CCS. It will inject 100,000 tons of CO2 per year into a saline reservoir. It's a research and development pilot project to validate technologies that are focused on cost reduction and process safety that will enable projects on a larger commercial scale in the future. And another one I would like to mention is Replan, which is also a refinery in the southeast. That's a pilot project to produce hydrogen. So it's installation of a water electrolysis plant at Replan that will integrate with the existing system of the refinery.
Wow. That's a lot of opportunities right there for the supply chain listing, but a lot of work for you. So I have some questions for you about lots of things here. So let's start with, you talked about fertilizers there. Are you finding that you have been affected by geopolitical supply disruption of fertilizers because of the war in the Middle East? And so that's put extra emphasis on fertilizer production domestically. Is that what's happening here?
Yes, it's one important point that we have to address throughout the design and to put the project into operation. And this happens not only with fertilizers, but this happened as well with diesel production. So when we had the conflict, we had to assess alternatives, how to guarantee and increase the production of diesel with the existing units that we have. So that's some kind of studies that we did to increase productions in some of the refineries to increase the conversion to diesel as well.
Will you be producing diesel and fertilizer and maybe SAF all for domestic use initially, or is it immediately becoming an export market opportunity as well for you?
Now for diesel, it's an internal market. And for SAF, we are considering both. In the assessments, we consider both, but mainly to Brazil.
So this very much is an energy security strategy. It is making sure you have domestic capability in the event of further disruption. That's a strategy that many countries are using. Your refinery build-out that you're doing, are there further refinery projects expected in the medium term beyond this current 5-year cycle? What's a typical balance of work for you of the work that's within your funded 5-year pipeline of projects and the work that's beyond that is not yet funded, but you have to start working on?
As the engineering team, we are involved throughout all projects in all phases. So we look at what we have in the short term, let's say like this, and midterm, it appears in the business plan in this 4 years period. But we need to be developing the designs of what we will put into operation after that cycle. So we are working on many projects for the future, for the next revisions of the business plan, both for refining, for gas processing, for logistics, biofuels, energy projects. So everything the team is involved into for refinery modernization and integration projects, low carbon and decarbonization, gas and energy infrastructure, and the biofuels and renewables.
Are you able to also give an indication of some of the projects that are in the cycle beyond this current 5 years?
Yes, sure. We are working, for example, in 2 refineries, projects that the earliest stages, when we are working on the early stages, this kind of project still has some stage gates to be assessed and approved. But I can talk about some of them, like a hydrotreatment unit for the refineries in the south, as REPAR and REFAP. We have a preparation for them for the phase out of the diesel S500 and to produce ultra-low sulfur diesel. It's about each of these projects 5,500 cubic meters a day. We also have another biofuel plant. It's Boaventura Energy Complex, half a plant as well, which will add 15,000 barrels per day of synthetic blend component that will produce SAF and renewable diesel, commutable as well, both SAF or renewable diesel. And the current feedstock as well is 100% up to 70% of soybean oil and up to 30% of beef tallow. We have as well another biofuel plant, which is the Replan. It's Southeast Brazil refinery, which is an alcohol to jet. So it's a different type of project. The feedstock is ethanol. This project is designed to 10,000 barrels per day of synthetic blend components to produce SAF. This is an interesting project because there is some restriction on the use of water in the area that Replan is placed. And this technology, it converts 40% of the ethanol is converted into water. So you can take this water that is converted and it will also recycle it back. So you don't need to have an intake of potable water in addition to already is there. Another project that we are working on, we just finished the design and we expect to go to bid in the short term, is the battery energy storage system, which is close to one of our power plants. And the project has a capacity of 30 megawatts and 120 megawatts hour. And then we have logistics, storage and distribution projects. It's Obapi pipeline, for example, which will replace heavy distillates pipeline that cross São Paulo city. So it will connect 2 terminals that we have there, more than 130 kilometers, contouring São Paulo in a new pipeline. It's still under approval, but we are already working on that. Another pipeline that will connect Replan to the Midwest, which will increase our capacity to supply light fuels, diesel and gasoline. So it will connect Replan refinery in the southeast Brazil up to Campo Grande in Mato Grosso. And we are developing, just to add one more, petrochemical design of some units in Boaventura Energy Complex as well, that will integrate with refining and natural gas, and we will use natural gas liquids from the natural gas processing unit that is there for petrochemicals. So just to mention some projects that are in the midterm or long term that might not appear yet in this business plan, but we are working on that.
Thank you, Fabricio, for sharing all of that. What an amazing engineering challenge you have.
Are you an energy business looking to revisit your strategy? Did you know EIC's Consult team helped 50 businesses last year? How? We helped them with their strategic investment decisions using EIC's award-winning market intelligence and data to provide them with tailored, pragmatic BD strategies, presentations, and reports. It works. Our data and insights have helped customers to confirm their decisions to export, diversify, and grow. Contact us now to learn more about EIC Consult and begin your own journey to smarter decisions. Details in the description below.
How many people are in your team, can I ask?
Yeah, in my team, we have now 530 engineers, mostly. But we also need to hire some engineers to have to deliver all the engineering activities throughout all the phases.
Yeah, because you're running, I don't know how many projects across how many technologies. Most companies they're dealing with are a BESS specialist or a refining specialist or a hydrogen specialist. You're doing almost all technologies. It's a wide-ranging strategy that Petrobras has, right? And it's actually very impressive. I always get impressive every time I come and meet people in senior roles in Petrobras about the scope and the ambition, the complexity, and yet somehow the confidence and the pragmatism of managing the process and the way you explain it. So that's what I think I would like to talk to you about next is, what are the challenges you face?
Well, I think the challenge that we have now for the engineering perspective is how can we deal with all this portfolio in a way that the engineering area is not the area that we will have to prioritize projects. Because if by an engineering bottleneck, we have to say what Petrobras will implement or not, we have a gap. So our vision is to not be in that position. We must be in a position...
not be the bottleneck.
Yes, we must not be the bottleneck, but bottleneck must be where we do not have control. So if we can put the designs and we can contract that, implement that, that's how we should have capability to provide all these engineering deliverables and activities to allow that portfolio to go as expected and with predictability.
Because as you explained before, so you're involved through the whole life cycle. So even though you have this core purpose of doing the design specification and converting it to technical specification, so the actual core engineering process, and then the procurement takes it onwards from there, you stay throughout the whole life cycle of the project. So it always comes back. So this idea of not being the bottleneck, it stays with you all the way through, doesn't it? What do you find is the hardest part of your job?
Yeah, I think we have, as the engineering area, to get early engaged with the business areas, because in this way we can make sure that when the project goes to approval from the FEL 1, it's well consolidated in terms of technical feasibility. So we have a feasible technical solution for that, instead of this being provided and assessed by the business area. And then we get involved after that, and that this may have some improductivity. So we have to be engaged before, so we can assure the solution is okay. And when it's approved, we already have the team ready to develop the early stages of engineering. As well as in these early stages, we have to involve the supply chain. For example, some cases we have to select a licensed technology provider. And in this case, we need to have that before we start the engineering, because we will need the engineering for that kind of technology to be provided, so we can integrate that and have a procurement strategy that fits how that unit will be. How many bidding packages? It will be 5, it will be 10, it will be 15. How can we split the strategy to have better competitiveness? And how can the companies, which kind of companies will be able to bid for that project? So we have to early engage in that to have predictability on the cycle, the earliest stages throughout each project life cycle. I think so that's the challenge. How can we as engineering area, we are not the bottleneck, so we are prepared to develop, to discuss. So we have to have partner companies that will provide engineering solutions for these designs, for the supervision of the detailed design when we are in the FEL 4 phase, for example, to be engaged with licensed technology providers, to be engaged with equipment suppliers. So how can we specify a system that maybe it's a new project that we are doing now? For example, the battery energy and storage system is the first project that we'll do for this case. So we have to get involved. An electrolyzer unit, how do you purchase the equipment? Do you purchase the stack of the electrolyzers? You put the transformers, rectifiers, water treatment together. How can we package that in a way we can add value but as well, we can reduce the work hours necessary to build that unit. This be a project that is intrinsically safer. We can have more work done into the workshops instead of at site. So you can have more prefabrication, more modularization. So all these studies, we have to do that in the upfront. It's best to have the engineering team a lot more involved in the beginning because it will need less engineering effort on the later stages, which will cost more and will have more demand, more time as well.
You've always got to be, as an engineering team, asking the question.
Yeah.
That you don't want to later regret that you didn't ask. Well, who are your key interfaces in the supply chain for this?
Well, we'll have to work with equipment manufacturers to check whether our specifications actually are more adherent, more suitable to what already the market has. So you have less customization of equipment. So that's one part of the supply chain that we must be very close to. Also with EPC contractors to understand how can we increase competitiveness of the bidding process and how can we split the design into design packages that will be the input for the bidding package, the contractual documents. So we take a large project as biofuels, half a plant, and how can we split the on-site, the off-site into packages that we have companies available to provide that package? It will increase competitiveness or will decrease. So we can have these discussions in the very beginning of the project. So when we have already completed the design, it's fully adherent to what the market has capability to provide.
When we were preparing this, we were sort of almost laughing about how this pressure of if you make a mistake at the start, you live with it forever. And it must be hard. And this is the life of an engineer, of course. But with your diversity of projects, it must be super hard. So how do you build trust? What do you need from partners and supply chain companies that makes it easier for you? What are you looking for from those companies?
We're looking for either suggestions when it's in the early phases. So how can we do better?
So proactive, technical, and experience-based decisions. Because I assume you don't want brand new ideas that nobody's done before. You need proven experience. Is that right?
Not always, because we could separate these into two different streams, let's say like this. Because if we have already the time counting on the investment project, you will not have time to assess and develop and qualify a solution. You have to be that ready. But we have split into in the engineering team. There's a separate team that is assessing solutions for future projects. In this way, we can have a better discussion on which is the better and best technical, economical solution to reduce emissions in the next project or to reduce the work hours to implement that project, to increase prefabrication. And then you make this configuration available, that qualification available, for example, and you apply in the next investment project that you're engineering. So you separate things so you do not have scope change.
And this is why it's important for supply chain to know, again, companies listening in here, that you have this 5-year cycle of projects which are largely pre-approved. Largely the contracting process is underway to a greater or lesser extent, so the innovation opportunity is much less there. Whereas for the following 5-year cycle and for the new portfolio projects, there's much more chance for optimization, but also innovation. And you're looking for that. And you have 2 separate teams that manage that. That's really helpful. I'd be very interested to know your kind of where you are with digital, and I guess I'll have to ask AI and how you're applying that as well.
Right. We, a long time ago, developed the engineering documents and had coming behind the model. So it was a separate product that was not updated many times with the actual design documents. But now we have, for some years now, extracting the engineering documents from the database. So you have the 3D model, you have it not only the geometry of the model, but also many attributes of which kind of material is that, which temperature, which pressure, all of the components work with. So we have this design being developed into this huge database, which is online, with all the teams And the companies that work with us during the development and front-end engineering design, they will do the data-driven design, let's say like this, and then the document will be produced as an extract of this database. And we are moving to a design deliverable that is much less centered into document and much more into the database. For example, in the recent bids that we do for the construction tenders, we not only deliver the design documents, but we delivered all the databases as well. So all the bidders can make more predictable proposal, consuming and utilizing that information. And once we have the contract signed, in the same way, the contractor will use that information to continue developing the detailed design and all the planning for the construction. To use advanced work packages, for example, for construction, the AWP, how to plan and control the engineering, the procurement, and the construction phase based upon all this information that was born, let's say like this, during the engineering development early stages.
I guess a supply chain company that doesn't have the ability to work in your data-centered approach is just adding pain for you. They're not helping you, are they? So that's a kind of clear message.
Yes, I think the companies that can make more use of this data that is available, they will have more competitive proposals to offer and increase their probability to win that bidding. So it's something that we make available for all the tender participants.
And your team, they must have changed their culture and behaviors as well in order to adopt to this new approach. How have you managed that?
It's a lot of training. We also had to designate responsible. There's a manager that is responsible for digital engineering. So this team is responsible to prospect solutions that are available in the market so we can use what is already developed, train the team to make use of the tools, and we also keep updating with our partners into these tools. And you have tools for calculation, you have tools for designing, you have tools to extract quantities from this design. So different tools for different disciplines that must integrate, which itself it's a complete challenge to do that with different suppliers of engineering tools. So we have to be close connected to the market, close connected to the team, and continuously identify routine automation processes to automate the engineering design processes and to customize, in some case, the tools. So we also feedback our suppliers of these tools so they can improve the way the tool is supplied in the next revision.
And this is your feedback process again, which is like a core strength of the way you work, Fabricio, and your whole team work, is embracing the learning journey and the opportunity that's constantly coming from feedback all the way through the cycle and not getting frustrated about it, taking it as a learning, building it in for next time. It's a core part of the way you work, isn't it?
Yes, and it takes a lot of effort to change the way we do things, because if you are used to work in a way, you have predictability with that and need to change and to see value in that change to improve. We have with this portfolio not to be the bottleneck of prioritization of capital projects. So we have not only to provide more resources, we need to provide more efficient ways to do that kind of work. And not only for our own team, but throughout all the life cycle with suppliers, with construction contractors, with the planning team, the implementation team. So everybody can convert that information that is available into work productivity.
So as we come to wrap up, thank you for spending so much time. For you, for the future, what do you want the future to be? Is it using AI to optimize the process and join all this up a little bit more seamlessly? Is it to just find partners that really help you in this learning process? I guess help me to understand, for future for you and your department, what do you hope for?
Well, I think for the future, we have to continue to keep improving the capital project cycle. It's very long by itself for the physical part of it.
Long and wide.
Yeah, and wide. And we have, if we look at each stage of this life cycle, we have some losses, which is like, do not add exact value to the process that we have we need to supersede either before the engineering starts and after the engineering ends, so we can contract these projects. So one thing that we discuss a lot here, for example, is the D+0, which is from the day that we finish the basic design, the front-end engineering design, we should be able to start the bidding process. So how can we shorten the life cycle process, which is already large? And I think the tools that we have, for example, moving from document-based design to a data-driven design, using more AI to do that, to have a more consistent design, a mature design. And if we can use this throughout the life cycle with our partners, our suppliers and contractors, we can avoid those losses that we'll still have in this process to have a more lean process. Of course, each project by definition is a single start and ending product. You have only that kind of project, but many processes related to each project of that, despite it is refining, despite it's a gas processing or renewable, we have common activities that we can standardize, can automate, and can cut those losses to have a shortened life cycle period.
So just for those companies that are wanting to participate more directly with Petrobras, perhaps they've not had too much experience working with you before, but now they listen to you and they realize the scale of the opportunity. How should they start?
Petrobras is a mixed economy company. We follow Brazilian state-owned companies law, so we can ensure that the transparency, so all of the bids, they are open to each company that wants to provide, to engage with these opportunities. Only requirements is to have registration, which is the first step. So to register in Petrobras supplier system, which is the Petronect platform.
And just for those companies listening in, you can do that directly with Petrobras, of course, but also EIC has a service where we can help companies to do that if they're not quite sure of how that works or the language worries them or something.
And sometimes we have a pre-qualification process for some bids, but not all of them. So in this case as well is open to anybody, any company that wants to participate. This, when it comes for direct opportunities with Petrobras, for sure all of these projects that I mentioned, in the case they are EPC contracts, it's also possible to participate in each of the EPC companies. For some specific cases, some kind of equipment, we have a vendor list that is provided into the contract. It's very specific case of some critical equipment or supercritical equipment. All of the opportunities are publicly available at the Petronect website.
So how are you seeing AI as a tool that will help you in your job and your team's work? Is it a disruption and actually brings more risk, or do you just see it as all an opportunity to help you do the job better?
I think it's a great opportunity. In the first moments, I thought that a more centralized way to use the AI would be something more productive, but we see now that a more organic way to deal with AI, it's the best way. So we have provided the tools for AI, and we stimulate the team to make different uses of that. And now, for example, to mention one example, we have put all the technical clarifications that we have, this database of requests for clarification from contractors, from construction companies, and what we have clarified in previous process, we have put all into this AI database. So the first reply looks for what we have done, looks for the contractual documents, and gives some technical reply already prepared. So each engineer, each discipline responsible can have a first revision, some suggestion, and work on that. We also have put all the contract database for all and each contracts that we have. So once we want to do some clarification during the bidding phase, we can check them at the consistency of this throughout before replying to the bidders, for example. And also during the technical bid evaluations, for example, just to give you another one example, to compare whether the technical proposals that we are receiving consistent with the requirements and which are the deviations. So that would take a lot of effort to prepare. So this is some product that we can have testing that, of course, there's still some development on this. But just to give some example on what we are using into the engineering area to make use of AI tools that is available to all the team.
So you're not yet using AI as an engineering tool per se. It is a documentation control and improvement tool, a checking tool for compliance and so on.
Yes, for maturity evaluation as well, to checklists to verify whether the design complies to that requirements. So these some examples of use that we are having now.
Yeah, brilliant.
As final thoughts, first I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to talk about some of the projects that we have here, some visions, strategies. But I think the active listening is something very important to us, to have this active listening for all the supply chain. We do not deliver projects by ourselves alone, so we must be doing things that is very strictly connected to what the capability that the market has, and even to put some challenges for the future generation of projects that we will develop. So this active listening and encourage suppliers to the early engagement with us in the very early stages for technical specifications, for the procurement strategy, and also we'll bring this prospective view of what we see for the near future, for the midterm, long term, so we can better engage the future portfolio with what we can have as the best offers from the market.
Amazing. Well, Fabricio, I wanted to thank you personally for your time and for being so open, I think, with us around the scope of what you do, the challenges you face, the ambition. You come across as someone, though, that has a very clear understanding of what's the process that works and how to manage complexity, how to take teams through these processes of improvement and change. And obviously, you are leading some of the most important projects, I guess, in Brazil. And not just for domestic requirements for the economy in Brazil, but then for export opportunities as well for Petrobras and its shareholders. So amazing work you do. Thank you so much for spending the time. And I guess for those listening in, if you're thinking, okay, sounds like there's a lot of opportunities for the supply chain. Absolutely, there are a lot of opportunities for the supply chain if you have the right behaviors and if you're willing to listen actively, as Fabricio said. So if you want to know more about how to work with Petrobras, obviously there are ways of contacting them directly. Or if you've never worked with them before, you can contact EIC first, and then we'll put you in touch with the right people. We'll help you to access the opportunities because, as I hope you've heard today, this is an organization that's growing rapidly, has a wide range of projects that it's looking at, is well-funded, has great engineering capability, but knows that it still needs partners to help it on the journey. So, Fabricio, thank you again so much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Lovely to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's our show for today. A huge shout out to Samara, Lucas and Joao and the rest of our incredible team behind the scenes. This show truly wouldn't happen without them. If you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean the world if you'd hit that follow button. Give a 5-star rating or leave a review. It's the best way to help us keep doing what we love. And as a thank you, I'll leave you with my favourite 5-word joke. Love wind power. Big fan.